member. You're a real member.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'm Dan Hobeck, Chair of the Planning Board, and this is the July 15, 2026 meeting of the Planning Board of the Town of Harpswell. We are actually having two meetings this month because of the number of applications, and we'll be considering the first two items on the agenda tonight. So having called the meeting to order, please stand with me and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'm going to be in stereo tonight?
No, I can do that.
Oh, okay. All right. There are two things on the agenda tonight. Both of them are considerations of residential wharfs. And we will also be considering minutes of 4 previous minutes. But that will be at the end of the meeting. We do have no old business. We require 4 members in order to have a quorum for the planning board. We have 4 members here. The reason why we have 2 alternates is in case there are members who are not regular members of the planning board are not here to participate. And so our 2 alternate members will be voting members tonight. Okay, Jim, would you like to start and introduce yourself?
Yeah, Jim Bobarski, associate member.
Dan Hobeck, chair of the board.
Lori Falcone, associate member.
Debbie Forrester, secretary.
Okay, and since we do have people, at least one person who is visiting on by way of Zoom, please make sure that if you have any comments that you're at the mic, because otherwise it's very, very difficult for us to understand, the people there to understand what's going on. Okay, first item of new business is item 26-7-1, David W. Abel Trust of 2020. Flycatcher LLC is the applicant. Map 7, Lot 171, 209 High Head Road. Consideration of an application for a new residential wharf in the Resource Protection District. Margaret, would you like to?
No.
No, you go ahead, Margaret.
Oh, no, you're going to do a great job, Tim.
All right.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Tim Forrester with Flycatcher. No relation to Debbie.
I spell it properly.
Yes, that's right. So I'm here on behalf of the applicants, David and Laura Abel at 209 High Head Road, and this is a proposed residential dock project. So it has been approved by the DEP and the Army Corps of Engineers, so we've checked that box. I do believe the harbor master, actually I don't know if the harbor master's looked at this yet. Do you know if that's?
I don't know.
Yeah. So just to give you a quick background of, we had the site visit, we showed you where the dock was going to be constructed. It's essentially in the center of the property. There'll be an upper landing, which is 4 by 4. And then a run of stairs at 4 by 18 feet to a pier section, which is 5 by 24. The pier will be supported on 2 bents. So bents are the vertical posts that support the stringers and the rest of the dock structure. Both bents are located and pinned to ledge, and then will span an area of rockweed covered ledge with a 3 by 42 foot aluminum ramp. And that will end and land on a 12 by 20 foot float. The float will just barely float on all tides. They do have a sailboat. What's the length of the sailboat? 40 feet? Yep. So they have a mooring out in front of the property, and then they have a 40-foot sailboat that they keep on there. They also have a small sailing sailboat that they would like to keep on the float. They are members of the High Head community, so I'll let others address that topic. So their attorney is here tonight to talk about any title right or interest concerns related to that. Any structural questions about the dock, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, we did do a site visit to that place. You want to report on the site visit? Who?
I wasn't there.
I was there.
Okay.
I can report if you want.
Okay, why don't you report on what we noticed at the
Sure.
sidewalk?
Basically, what we noticed was that it was a pretty steep incline to get down to where the water is, and it is completely covered with, what did you call it? It's a rockweed.
Yep.
So I believe there's some form of steps to get down there, but not very safe, correct?
Correct.
Right. So, I mean, in essence, what we saw is it just wasn't really accessible to get down to the water.
Yep.
I would add that there were no abutters there, and the vegetation is lawn all the way kind of up to where the ledge starts. So there'd be no vegetation removal required.
Okay, thank you. The standards for piers and docks are contained in section 15.3.1 of the shoreline zoning ordinance. What we will do is we will go through those tonight and make whatever findings we can, listen to any statements that individuals have concerning this, whether abutters or anyone else. And then we will turn to address the legal issue, which we are likely not to, well, we will not be able to finish the legal question tonight because our attorney for the planning board is not present, and there are enough changes, there are enough differences between what the legal opinion is of the petitioners as of Kristen Collins' letter dated July 10, 2026, attempts to distinguish the ruling that this planning board made some time ago on an application for 309 Hyde Head Road. And so obviously when there's a legal issue, the planning board has the responsibility to, particularly if there are differences of legal opinion, to make sure that our attorney has an opportunity to weigh in. The attorney as well can talk to the petitioner's attorney and perhaps find a common ground. That sometimes happens. If not, what we'll end up doing is we will make all the findings that we can tonight, hear anyone who wants to speak tonight, but withhold the conclusion on the legal matter until next month's meeting when we've had an opportunity for our attorney to weigh in and to see what her recommendation is. Okay? I just want to make sure that since this is a public hearing, that anyone who does want to be heard has an opportunity to be heard. So if you wish to make a comment as we go along, we'll go through the findings of fact generally and talk about what the recommendation of the planner is. And after that, we will open it up to the floor to hear what anyone else wishes to say. All right?
Great. I'll be right over here if you need me.
Okay, thank you. All right, the findings of fact for the shoreline conformance with the shoreline zoning ordinance is all under section 15 of the shoreline zoning ordinance. 15.3.1, and these, this is any of the information that we're talking about tonight is also available on the town's website. So if you ever have any questions about an ongoing application, you can always go on there, and any information that we as the planning board members have is also going to be available to any member of the public. That's just a part of kind of transparency that we wish to have. But included in the proposed findings of fact are recommendations that are made by the town planner. So 15.3.1 says no more than one pier, dock, wharf, or similar structure is allowed. The recommendation is that this standard is met based on the finding that the applicant is proposing to install one dock to serve the lot. And after we're done reading through this stuff, I'm going to look for a motion from the planning board to accept the recommendations of the planner or to make any changes that are questioned there. Does anyone, member of the board, have a question about this section? Section 15.3.2, access from shore shall be developed on soils appropriate for such use. The recommendation is that this standard is met based on the finding that the applicant will use DEP best management practices for erosion and sedimentation control. Any questions or comments from the planning board on that? 15.3.3, the location shall not interfere with any existing developed or natural beach areas. This standard is met based on the finding that this standard is met based on the finding that there are no developed or natural beaches located in the project vicinity. Questions, comments on that? 15.3.4, the facility shall be located to minimize adverse effects on fisheries. The standard is met based on the following findings. The ramp and float will be removed during winter months. The harbor master will review this application and her findings will be presented to the select board prior to town approval. Questions or comments on that finding? 15.3.5, the facility shall be no larger in dimension than necessary to carry on the activities. The standard is met based on the finding that the docks are for non-commercial use. The pier will be 5 feet in width, and the pier appears not to extend below mean low water. Questions or comments from the board? Okay. 15.3.6, no structure shall be built on, over, or abutting a pier or other structure. This standard is met based on the finding that the applicants do not propose constructing any structures on, over, or abutting the dock. Questions or comments from the board? 15.3.7. By the way, the reason I'm going through this is to make sure that we have a good, complete record here. 15.3.7, no existing structure built on, over, or abutting a pier shall be converted to residential dwelling units in any district. This standard is met based on the findings that the application is for the construction of a new dock. As such, there are no existing structures on the proposed dock. Comments or questions from the board? 15.3.8, except in the commercial fisheries 1 district, structures built on or over or abutting a pier may not exceed 20 feet in height above the pier. This standard is met based on the finding that the applicants do not propose constructing any structures on, over, or abutting the dock. For the moment, I'm going to pass over 15.3.9, which is the legal issue. 15.3.10, no new permanent piers and docks on non-tidal water shall not be allowed. This standard is met based on the finding that the application is for a seasonal dock located on tidal waters. Questions or comments from the board? 15.3.11, vegetation may be removed in excess of the standards of this ordinance in order to conduct shoreline stabilization. When necessary, removal of trees is allowed. Revegetation must be in accordance with 15.27. This standard is met based on the findings that the dock installation project does not require upland vegetation to be removed. Questions or comments from the board?
It's going over the vegetation, right, onto the grass?
So the The upper landing is a 4x4 pressure-treated landing that transitions into a set of stairs down over the pier. The landing will start in the lawn, and then the stairs will transition over. There is some low shrubs right below that, but the stairs will span over that area.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any other general questions about these things that we have discussed from the town planner? All right. Hearing none, I'd like to open it up to any questions, comments from the audience. Anything related to those findings that we've discussed, not related to whether a dock is permitted under the subdivision ordinance. Are there any questions or comments about that? If not, I will move that the planning board find that the standards of the shoreline zoning ordinance 15.3.1, .2, .3, .4, .5, .6, .7, .8, .10, and .11, that those standards are met. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Wait, we have to do it, since it's by Zoom, we have to do it by name. I'm sorry.
Jim Babarski, aye.
Dan Holback, aye.
Lori Falcone, aye.
Debbie Forrester, aye.
Okay. So that takes care of, we wanted to get rid of, not rid of, but to make findings on all of those matters first, so that all that is left is a matter of the legal issue about standard 13.3.9. As I mentioned previously, there was an application for another dock in the High Head subdivision that we considered a number of months ago. That application was denied based on the legal opinion of our attorney that said that due to the nature of the subdivision and our requirement and our regulations that say that within an established subdivision, individual docks are not to be permitted. We understand that there's a distinction that the applicant here wishes to make. I'd be interested in hearing from the applicant or their counsel if they wish to speak to that.
Dan, before Kristen gets up, I do think that we should table this discussion until Amy can have a chance to weigh in. We did receive a letter from Kristen that I didn't circulate until today. We got it last Friday, and our attorney hasn't had a chance to review it or make comments about it, and I do think that we should hold off on, I would request that we table it until Amy can weigh in on the topic and hopefully attend the subsequent meeting.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
What I wish to do is we will not take action on it tonight because we have not heard from our attorney. But with the number of people here, since this is a public hearing, I would like to have people speak who are interested in speaking to this issue. And at that point, then, we will continue it to the next meeting.
Thank you. I do appreciate that because I am not positive I can attend the next meeting. So.
All right.
I'm Kristen Collins. I'm at Preddy Flaherty, and I represent both the Ables and the Muddies. So, so I don't have to repeat myself. Let's just consider that my comments here are in the record for both applications, if that's okay, for 187 and 209 High Head.
Sure.
So yes, I'm speaking on section 15.3.9 of the shoreline zoning ordinance, and the language is that no new wharf, pier, dock, or float should be constructed on a lot shown on a recorded subdivision plan that has deeded rights of access to a wharf, pier, dock, and/or float. I understand that the planning board did consider this issue on another dock application in High Head and ended up denying that application for this reason. We weren't there making arguments on this one, on that one, and we're here making arguments that are a little bit different on this one. The board is not bound by precedent like a court is. If you hear an argument this time around that you think, changes your opinion, or if you were not on the board back then, you are absolutely free to come up with a different opinion this time around, and I hope that you will. Because the decision that was made the last time around, if it applies to every old development in Harpswell, I think has way more far-reaching impact, an impact on people's property values than could have ever been intended when this provision was enacted. You've got High Head, you've got Indian Rest, you've got loads of other communities that you know better than I that are super old, that were never considered under main subdivision statutes because they far preceded them. There may have been a primitive plan. Oftentimes there was some sort of community club or facility, but absolutely no one back in 1910 or 1930 or 1955 was thinking, we're creating some right in the people in this development that is going to prevent them from doing things with their property someday. So the very significant distinction is with someone who comes in today looking at this ordinance and is designing a subdivision. They know that the people in their subdivision are bound by this provision. They're going to design it accordingly. They are going to have, they're not going to have only one dock for a huge community. They're going to write in the covenants and the deeds that there is deeded rights of access to a community dock. Everything is going to be planned around that concept of a community dock. That was not the case with High Head, nor with any of these other old developments. So in High Head, what my argument is that it doesn't have deeded rights of access to a wharf, pier, dock, or float. It has deeded rights of access to a yacht club. A yacht club doesn't necessarily have, nor need to have, a wharf, pier, dock, and or float. There's nothing in the bylaws for this community that require it to do that. There's nothing on that old 1965 plan that says anything about a community dock. So the yacht club at any time could say, hey, half the people in this development already have private piers. We're not going to maintain this pier anymore and charge those dues. And there's nothing in the documents that compels them to keep that there. So that would render people in the development without the ability to have any dock at all. In general, I think the most important distinction between the ordinance and this development is it refers to a subdivision, which is a defined term under state law, and a subdivision is a division of a tract or parcel that begins on or after September 23rd, 1971. And this particular development was, it was approved, I guess. It was approved by the select board in 1965. I have no idea whether there was any type of zoning review, subdivision review in the way we think of it today, or whether it was simply signing off on a plan so that it could be recorded and deemed official. But it was not a subdivision plan at the time because there was no subdivision law. And under the definition of that term today, by ordinance and by state law, it's not a subdivision. It is a development, there is a plan, but that doesn't make it a quote-unquote subdivision. So that is why I think, in general, this ordinance shouldn't be applied to old developments like High Head and the ones like it. In terms of distinguishing, if that's what you're looking for, between that Hagerty application from 2025, there is one important distinction, and I didn't even think of this, frankly, until someone who was on the planning board, when we talked to the select board about this, said, well, that one was different because he had come in for a subdivision amendment. I thought, oh, that's actually true. In that case, that applicant had been recently in front of the planning board invoking the subdivision ordinance and asking for a lot line adjustment. And so by that way, by doing that, he sort of brought it under the subdivision ordinance, whether or not it should have been. So now that lot, as adjusted, is a subdivision lot because it was approved under the subdivision ordinance. But these other ones have never invoked the subdivision ordinance, have never been approved under the subdivision ordinance, and I think that is an important distinction, along with everything else. So, thank you. I will do my best to be here next time and answer whatever Amy's thoughts are, but I think an interesting exercise between now and then, take a look around on the tax maps and look at all these old developments, and then take a look on Google Maps and look at the old developments and see how many docks there are. And those people just got in time, and they're getting a benefit that these other folks, just by virtue of having bought when they did or thought of a dock when they did, are not going to get, including many, many docks in High Head, including one that was just approved a few years ago. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. One of the things that we are bound by our ordinances as they are interpreted, specifically when you end up with a legal issue such as this one. It's well beyond the realm or expertise of the individual members of the planning board to act on that without the advice of counsel, and that's why we engaged counsel in the last one. I anticipate that it won't be that long before we hear from our attorney. And at that point, Counselor, feel free to contact our attorney. And, maybe there's a resolution there. I don't know. But, that discussion goes on over there as opposed to the ones that goes on here. Yeah.
Yes, I'd just like to make one quick statement. You hit a buzzword just now, and that was interpretation of the ordinance. So as someone who's worked in Harpswell and in the coastal communities in Maine for 27 years, designing and permitting structures, historically, the town of Harpswell, when this ordinance was adopted by a prior code officer, Bill Wells, it was his interpretation that new subdivisions going forward from the point of the ordinance change triggered this amendment. So there are several docks that I permitted through the town that was interpreted by the code officer that didn't meet the standard or didn't fall under that requirement. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. I see a number of the members of the public here and someone who is here by way of Zoom. If any of you would wish to speak at this point, you are more than welcome to do so. All right, hearing none, I would like to entertain a motion to continue this matter until our next monthly meeting, which is on August. Didn't look at that.
I would say the next monthly meeting or whatever meeting date is agreed upon by the attorneys.
Okay. But I do think that we have, yeah, okay. So continue it to a future date as determined by the discussions between the attorneys?
Yeah, whatever, if Kristen and Amy, Attorney Chow can work out a date that they can both meet, maybe that would be better, I'm not sure.
Well, I'm wondering if we should continue this to a date certain and then allow us to modify that. So let's set it for the
It's August 19th.
August 19th at 6:30, unless something comes up and we're able to adjust it from there. Okay.
Seconded?
Okay, any discussion from the board?
Seconded?
Okay, no discussion?
Did you move?
Jim? Yes, no?
Aye. Jim Babarski, aye.
Dan Hobeck, aye?
Lori Falcone, aye.
Debbie Forrester, aye.
Okay. So this matter is continued now to the August 19th meeting. And again, this is something where, you know, I think individual members of the planning board may have our own personal opinions. But this is something that as a legal matter, it's a complicated thing. There's not, I don't know any case law in Maine that deals directly with this issue. So that's why we get the counselors involved in it. Okay, the second item on the agenda is, grab this here. 187 High Head Road. Let me pull this up here a minute. Okay, it's thinking. Okay, here we go. This is an application for a seasonal dock in RP District Map 7, Lot 175, and that is item 26-7-2, Christopher and Richard and Mindy Moody, owners, and Flycatcher LLC applicant. Map 7, Lot 175, 187 High Head Road. Consideration of an application for a new residential dock in the Resource Protection District.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Tim Forrester with Flycatcher, here on behalf of the applicants, Christopher Muddy, and this is 187 High Head Road. So they relatively recently purchased the property, and along the shore there is an existing access way that consists of some cement pavers that transition into some stairs, and then there is a sort of unique float, if you will, that sits at the bottom of the stairs. The permitting history of that I'm not 100% sure of. Nonetheless, that whole structure is proposed to be removed and rebuilt with something much better. So the cement runners will come out, the stairway will come out. There's the landscape has already been sort of V-notched cut, if you will, to accommodate the stairwell. So that was one of the driving reasons of why to utilize the same spot, so that we're not disturbing undisturbed vegetated areas throughout the rest of the property, as well as some rather mature trees at the top of the bank. So this is a slightly longer pier. Well, it is a longer pier than the last one, but to account for reducing impacts because of its size, we're making this a little bit different of a design, and there'll be aluminum pier sections with much larger spans in between the bents that support them. So we have two 50-foot aluminum pier sections that are 5 feet wide, and then a bent in the middle and a bent on the end. There is some salt marsh within the shoreline, but it's very, very degraded. There's only a couple inches of peat left. In my opinion, it looks like green crabs have basically annihilated the majority of the marsh in there. But we are able to, it is shallow to ledge just below that. So the middle bent, we are able to pin that to ledge, and the outer bent is on exposed ledge. There is some shoreline erosion in there, while not under the board's jurisdiction. We will be adding, we do propose to add some riprap underneath the pier itself, just to protect that structure and the shoreline adjacent to it. And then this as well will have a 3 by 50 foot ramp and a 12 by 20 float. The project was just approved today by Department of Environmental Protection, so I handed a copy of that to your town planner. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
All right. Laura, you want to report on our site visit?
I can, but it's really not going to be much different.
Yeah.
What I
That was
saw,
very detailed.
it was very detailed, yeah, so helpful. So yes, grass lawn in the back that went down to the pavers, down a set of stairs. It was pretty tight down there. There was a bunch of us standing on that little dock down there, so it's quite small. But that was really all that I really observed.
All right.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Similar to the last application, we're evaluating this in conformance with the shoreline zoning ordinance statute standards. And again, the recommendations, whether the standard is met or not, are those prepared by the town planner, which will be incorporated by reference into the findings. So 15.3.1, the standard is met based on the finding that an existing waterfront access structure exists on the lot, which will be removed prior to the construction of a new wharf. Questions or comments from the board?
No.
15.3.2, the standard is met based on the finding that the applicant proposes to stabilize and revegetate the shoreline, which will help control erosion. Comments from the board?
No.
15.3.3, the standard is met based on the finding that there are no developed or natural beaches located in the project vicinity. Questions from the board?
No.
15.3.4, the standard is met based on the findings that the ramp and float will be stored in an upland location during the winter months. The harbor master will review this application and her findings will be presented to the select board prior to town approval. Questions, comments from the board? 15.3.5, the standard is met based on the following findings that the dock is for a non-commercial use. The pier will be 5 feet in width, and the pier appears not to extend the mean low water line. Comments from the board? 15.3.6, the standard is met based on the finding that the applicants do not propose constructing any structures on, over, or abutting the dock. Comments, questions from the board? 15.3.7, the standard is met based on the findings that there will not be a structure built on, over, or abutting the wharf that could be converted to a dwelling unit. Comments from the board? 15.3.8, the standard is met based on the finding that applicants do not propose constructing any structures on, over, or abutting the dock. Comments from the board? Again, we'll skip over 15.3.9. 15.3.10, this standard is met based on the finding that the application is for a seasonal dock located on tidal waters. Comments from the board? 15.3.11, the standard is met based on the following findings. The shoreline stabilization construction access will be 12 feet wide. No vegetation will be removed to construct the equipment access way. Questions, comments from the board? Okay, I move then that the planning board find that standards 15.3.1, .2, .3, .4, .5, .6, .7, .8, .10, and .11 are met according to the recommendation of the town planner. Is there support?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Before voting on this, again, if any members of the public have any comments or questions concerning these matters, be happy to entertain them now. If none, I'll call for a vote.
Jim Bobarski, aye.
Dan Hoback, aye.
Lori Falcone, aye.
Debbie Forrester, aye.
The motion passes 4-0. Again, we're back to standard 15.3.9. Counselor, if you wish to say anything further, otherwise we can incorporate your previous statements by reference in this application.
All set,
Excellent. All right, is there anyone who would wish to speak to this? Seeing none, I move that that this matter, forget what.
July 19th.
Yeah, I'm just,
August 19th, sorry.
yeah, which is item 26-7-2, be continued to our August 19 meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion? Jim?
Jim Babarski, aye.
Dan Hoback, aye.
Lori Falcone, aye.
Debbie Forrester, aye.
Okay, thank you very much. We will be back on the 19th or at such other time as we're able to get the attorneys to work together.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the other matter of new business was application 26-6-05, application of Scott Stottmeister, map 30, lot 72, 4 Park Place, site plan review, consideration of an application for a new auto restoration business in an existing structure. Margaret?
Hi, you guys are all here for the Scott Stardmeister application. I see that now. I want to update you. I was doing my draft motions a couple weeks ago, and the very first approval standard is 15.1, which is dimensional standards of the site plan review ordinance. And it came up that his lot is not big enough for a second principal use. So basically, if you want to add a business to your property, you kind of have two routes. One, you go through the site plan review process to approve a new non-residential use or a non-residential structure, whatever it may be. And the other option is for what we call a home occupation, which is basically a home-based business. Obviously, it's easier to stay out of the planning board. It's a lot less work. And a lot of people do this home-based business, especially in Harpswell. But the standards for that, so he wants to have this antique auto restoration business in this big, beautiful boat barn on the property. You know where it is, I'm sure.
Yeah, we did the site visit. Yeah.
Oh, you were at that site visit.
Yes.
There's too many moving parts for these. So he wants to have it in this boat barn. The ordinance, if you want to have a home occupation, limits the square footage of the business in an accessory structure to 900 square feet. That building's larger than 900 square feet, and so he doesn't qualify for it being a home-based business. And then if you go through the site plan review process, you have to, for a non-residential use, you have to count that the equivalent as a single-family dwelling as far as lot size and lot frontage. So for each non-residential use, you need an additional 40,000 square feet and an additional 150 feet of road frontage or water frontage, depending on your zone. So his lot is already non-conforming, and it's not big enough to add a new non-residential use to. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yes.
Does that make sense to you guys? So that, to me, was kind of a deal breaker. So I, met with the code officer, and we tried to troubleshoot this project for him. And then our third option was a variance. But you can't get a variance for him because his property is partially in the shoreline zone. So there is a variance, but the stipulation is your lot is not in whole or in part in the shoreline zone. Because it's partly in the shoreline zone, he doesn't qualify for a variance either. So I spoke to the applicant and I said, look, this is kind of a non-starter for us. And even if we were to approve it, I think what he has going for, how he's presented the business to us is about as low impact as it can be. 2 restorations a year, no street sign, no employees. I think it'd be about as low impact of a neighbor as I can think of for a business. Where was I going with this? Now I can't remember what my point was, but I just think that, yeah, it's just hard because he doesn't kind of qualify. He doesn't check any of the right boxes for this project. So anyways, I spoke with him And he submitted a resignation letter that I brought, if anybody would like a copy. I can read it to you. It says, "Good morning. After our conversation last Friday, I believe it in my best interest to rescind my application. Please remove me from the July 15th Planning Board meeting. Thank you. Regards, Scott Stockmeister."
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I have to say.
Okay. What about working on his own vehicles?
Totally. I think he could work on his own vehicles. I think he will work on his own vehicles. I think he has all the equipment regardless. You know, if, as you know, you went to the site visit, he's got, I don't know, a dozen vehicles there that he will still work on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, if he
But they're
withdrew,
just his hobby.
right, his hobby.
if he withdrew his application, I guess we don't need to speak on it too much more, but I
Yeah,
guess that was my biggest question, because I looked at the map and, I was just like, man, is there gonna be cars all over the lawn? That was kind of my biggest question.
there's
Um,
very little lawn to have cars
yeah.
on.
Yeah.
which was my concern looking at the map, so.
Behind basically behind the house, you can't really
Yeah.
see him from
Yeah.
the street.
Yeah, so basically, if he's working on his own cars, you know, obviously neighbors are always interested in what's going on and is there gonna be a bunch of noise and all that kind of stuff. Should you find out that, him working on his cars and, you know, grinding metal at 3 AM on Sunday morning or whatever, you know, please either contact him if you find that, that his use of the property is decreasing the enjoyment of your property, and if you have no satisfaction there, your remedy is to come to the town and we can pursue matters under a nuisance ordinance.
Which we don't have.
Well, there's a state statute,
Yeah, there is a state
Yeah.
statute, but we don't have a noise
Yeah.
ordinance.
but, yeah,
I will say, though, that I can't imagine a better use for this building. You know, it's a big, big boat building. It just seems like a really good fit, in my opinion. I don't know, I'm not in a butter. But I just think that it kind of brought up with me, you know, is there a way that we can, it just got me thinking about ways that we can encourage small businesses more in town. So that's all we're ever gonna have. You know, we're only ever gonna have home-based businesses. We're never gonna have big corporate businesses. And so what can we do to help encourage these through ordinances or through other means? I don't know. Something to think about.
yeah, and you also have the thing which has been brought up many, many times in Harpswell about people being able to use their property to the best way that they possibly can without adversely affecting their neighbors,
Yeah.
so. Okay, so the application has been withdrawn, but if you're here and you would like to speak to it, speak about the reason why you're here or concerns that you have, we'd be happy to listen to them and relay them to Mr. Stockmeister.
Or also, I always like to learn from abutters, just to learn, you know, what could we do better in the future? What, you know, it got me thinking about small businesses, and maybe they have some opinions being an abutter to a proposed small business.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to talk, you can step up to the mic.
Good evening, everyone. I'm a direct abutter.
Would you state your name, please?
Robert Schuster.
Okay,
We own the property between the library and the site.
yep,
And my concern more is if he's grinding outside, older vehicles have lead base and cadmium base paints. And how would that impact our well fields? The other thing is all the solvents that he might be using. And if he's storing old cars outside, how much hydrocarbons are leaking and And when it rains, where does it wash it down to the residents below that building, down into the marshlands, down into Lowell's Cove? So, I mean, if he's gonna be painting, those are a lot of solvents. If he's gonna be sandblasting, that's another issue.
Yeah.
And all these are particulates that are being thrown into the air and into the nearby environment.
Yeah, I would certainly encourage you to talk to him about those concerns. And if the answers that he gives you are not satisfactory, please contact the town.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I should also mention, I didn't never mention that, since you're between the library and his place, we are also once removed as an abutter, since I'm the president of the Orrs Island Library. So I thought I'd better make that
Yeah, I didn't think
as a
about that.
belated disclosure here. But since the application is removed,
Yeah.
I didn't have to make that a part of the record. Are there any other comments? Thank you very much for speaking up. That's very important.
Do you mind stepping up to the microphone?
Hi, I'm Barry Stewart. I live across the street, directly across the street from Dan, and also from now Scott. And I'm a little bit of a different guy because I was brought up with automobile restorations. My father restored, I tried to count them here in my mind, at least 5 or 6 old cars, 2 of which I have now, and you may have seen. So he did this when I was in high school, college, and the service in the 50s and the 60s. And just to avoid you from trying to do mental math, I'm 89 years old. So some of these things go back to the 50s. But I want to tell you, the car, so anyway, I was his oldest son, and I got stuck with a lot of the dirty work. But car restorations include removing paint, likely lead-based paint, with solvents, with grinding, with sanding, wire brushing, any way you can. And you know, we didn't really think of it at the time, but it was lead-based paint. We also, clean stuff with solvents, and again, I'm going to show my age here, because one of my jobs was to clean up parts with gasoline in the backyard. And nobody thought anything of it. Again, this was the 1950s. And to a certain extent, you have to run engines to adjust them, and you have to paint. And painting is a big issue, because the paint, you've got the paint itself, of course, but you've got the booth, you've got the waste, you've got all those things. And I know from working up in Winslow for a major machine shop up there that there are companies that come around and provide solvent, and then take away the used solvent. But I am, I'll get out of here in a minute, but I was a small businessman. I've got this background in restorations, so I've got things going for this, for him doing this. But it is a residential neighborhood. He shares a driveway, unpaved dirt driveway, with a neighbor who is quite close to the building that you were talking about. yellow house there. All the buildings are pretty close. I was standing on Dan's back porch the other day, and I mean, that barn was right there. I mean, we were looking at the side of it. And so, from a neighbor's point of view, you said that you couldn't see that it would be any problem to a neighbor. And in all due respect, he was running an engine there in a truck or a car with no muffler, tuning the engine, and it was loud as the. And you know, I mean, it really was. And I was sitting on my front lawn, watching our child, and it was. So there's a fair amount of noise, and my father never ran one without a muffler, but apparently that's the way this happens. I'm also concerned about the water situation because due to the droughts, the whole water systems are changing. We haven't been able to. We haven't had drinkable water across the street from Scott's in a year. We have to filter it and so forth, and really re-filter it with a small filter just to get enough water to drink. And I am concerned, I mean, that you're going to have solvents and stuff drop on the ground. You just are. And I'm also concerned about property values because if something like this gets kind of gets going and it's noisy, that would be a problem. And we, of course, then we'd look to pay less taxes. But I don't know about the any enforcement mechanism in town. I gather there isn't much. We do have a code officer, of course. And the other thing is, and kind of the clincher to me, is that once something like this gets started, it's almost impossible to reverse it. So I hate to be the bad guy, but I do feel a responsibility to stand up here and tell you the way I see it. Thank you.
Barry, I've known you for a number of years. No one is ever going to accuse you of being the bad guy. But so thank you for those comments. Again, what we're talking about is the reasonable use of the property, and at some such point as it becomes unreasonable, that's the time when we need to get involved as the town. Any other comments from the community? All right. If not, then we will move on to our other business, which is consideration of the minutes from February 18, April 1, April 15, and June 17. We haven't approved minutes for quite a while.
Yeah, we're kind of in the backlog, and I didn't even send you June 17th. I've outsourced the completion of the minutes,
Okay,
and so it's a little bit out of my wheelhouse right now.
okay. So you have 3 sets of minutes to approve?
That I sent out today.
Yeah, they were attached.
Yeah, but I sent them out late, like I always do, because they're an afterthought, and Courtney's not here to review them. So unless everybody else has read them,
All right, well, let's defer that.
okay, I'm happy.
We'll
But you
consider
at least
those.
have them, and everybody can read them,
Okay.
and we'll defer them to next time.
There you go.
All right. Is there any other business?
Oh, yeah, I got some other business.
Oh, of course you do.
First of all, this is a plug for the assessor's office, but we're in the middle of a revaluation, as everybody knows, and the new values, you guys might speaking of property values, it made me think of it. The new values for everybody's property went live today. And there was a non-resident and taxpayer meeting on Monday night at the school, and they did a whole presentation about it, but everybody's new values went live, and we are in this kind of appeal, not an appeal period, but in a period where you look at your new values and you can call and have a hearing to discuss whether, with the assessor, with Vision, who's contracted out to do the reval. And then in 2 weeks, I think, they'll close that review period.
All right, now, are we individually going to get written?
I think all the mail went out, yeah.
Oh, okay,
So it's on the website, but it's also, everybody's gonna get it in the mail.
okay.
So anyways, his discussion about value made me think about, everybody's got new values as of today. The mail went out and it's on the website as of today. So you can, and then you can schedule a hearing if you disagree or want to discuss it. I also brought some memos for you. A little de minimis change from the land trust. Basically, we approved at the last meeting, I think, we approved their site plan. They were gonna make some small amendments and send it to us to sign, for Dan to sign. And when I got the site plan, they had made a change that we didn't know about at the meeting. And that was, they took one of the 31 parking spots and made it ADA van accessible. And that meant they lost the abutting parking spot, because I think you have to give space for the van to be able to unload.
Okay,
So they went from 31 to 30 spots, but we said they have to have 27.
all right,
So I thought it was fine.
all
And
right.
here's our documented evidence, it's a de minimis change.
Okay, so you're presenting this for our information, saying that is a de minimis change to what we approved? All right, thank
But
you.
I wanted it on the record.
Yeah, because you never know what they're gonna do.
Good
last
idea.
minute.
And things change, that's what's so hard about construction, is it all changes on the ground. And so the better we can document it. When they come back for an amendment and we say, well, why do you have a different number of parking spaces than we approved? This is at least the reason why.
Okay. Do you have anything else?
I do have one other thing, but Mary Ann can go first.
Okay,
Are you having a public comment?
yes.
I'm Mary Ann Nave, and I'm on the Conservation Commission, and I didn't want to talk directly to the last application. However, as I listened, I realized that if you have a home occupation, you may or may not be under the same conditions of how the business is run. And what was brought out at the meeting, I think, were some of the first things I started to think about. Just the type of materials that are being used, our water supply, our water problems in small properties. But there's nothing on our records to take that into consideration. And I'd like to suggest that perhaps the planning department think about, if we're going to have more home occupations, some kind of practice, depending on what the business is and how it might affect the environment around, not only for property values, but just for the issues of public safety and health. We had a business coming into town, an auto business there, and it was some of the same issues because there wasn't the right safeguards. This way you're not singling anybody out, but you have something there on file that is considering that. So I just thought I'd like to mention that. Thank you.
That's good, thank you. Yeah, it's one of the things that we think about with the other committees and commissions of the town is how can we best inform the population, particularly from people who have not been born and raised here. We haven't all been here as long as Barry has. But, when my wife and I moved here permanently 9 years ago, it was a bit of adjustment from moving from San Francisco. We didn't understand, it took a little while to figure out the fact that you don't take the 30-minute showers and you don't put junk on the lawn that can leach into the water. And so as a part of what else we're doing in town, and there'll be some materials coming up from another committee within the next couple of months, giving information to the people, particularly who are moving into the town of Harpswell, about what we really need to do in order to keep this community safe, vibrant, and to keep as much water as we possibly can.
Yeah.
All right. Are there any other comments? Oh, you have one more.
Yeah, I think that we're gonna have a proposed ordinance amendment coming our way soon. It's still being worked on, but I would like to try to schedule a workshop to discuss an ordinance amendment, that I'll get to you
Oh, okay.
whenever it comes out. But it's kind of a timeline issue. If we're gonna do an ordinance amendment for the November meeting, I know it's crazy, but you have to work back in time. The clerk needs it 60 days before the election, or, to get it on the ballot.
Right.
So that would be the beginning of September, and then you have to work back. The planning board has to hold a public hearing, and then we also have to discuss it before we hold the public hearing. So if we could work back and schedule a meeting towards the beginning of August. I know it's just blowing your mind. And I know everybody's busy, but
Well, if you want to do it at the beginning of August, you're going to have to do it during the library's book sale.
is that the 5th?
That's the 6th, 7, and 8.
So you're probably busy the 5th.
You think? Yeah.
Just a little.
You know as
Well,
well as we do, yeah.
So you're busy 6th, 7th, and 8th. So let me send out an email, basically, unless there's any deal breakers for the 11th through the 14th. I can send out an email and see if people are free.
I'll be gone
Okay,
at least probably 3 of those days.
okay.
Yeah.
11 through 15.
Okay.
Right,
I'm good.
okay,
After
That
that.
that following week is better.
okay.
All right, we'll just send out some
All right,
dates. and
I'll
we'll
send
take a
out some
look at it.
info, and you can tell me which of those days you'll be out, and we'll work on scheduling. It'll be a workshop style, but it'll have to be a real meeting so that we can vote to hold a public hearing if we
Right.
decide to.
Is it something we could do where I could be on Zoom? Because I'm going to be in Austin. probably,
Totally.
like,
So the
4
remote
days.
participation policy basically works out that if you are sick or out of town or unable to get to the meeting, you can join by Zoom, but if you're free and in town, you have to come in person.
Sure.
So that's why I thought Courtney was joining by Zoom tonight,
Mm,
because she's out of town.
yeah.
So that's
All right.
basically it. All right,
Is that it?
Good.
I think that's it.
Well, if you can always save anything you have for next week.
True.
Next week it's on Tuesday, is that right?
Yes.
Is that next Tuesday or
Believe it
Wednesday
is.
of next week?
It's the 21st, so I think it's Tuesday. Yeah, it is, it's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
Tuesday?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other comments,
Yes,
questions,
it's next
business from the?
Tuesday. Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
Yep.
All right, hearing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.